So now we begin the summary study of the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which discuss with the Gunas. So Krishna lists the three modes, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Now let's understand the modes. The modes are subtle forces that bind the soul to the body. So we can think in terms of three ropes, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. These ropes are constantly present and bind the soul to the body or spirit to matter. These modes shape how we interact with matter. For example, if we are in Sattva Gun, we may feel a desire to understand this subject better. If our mind is in Rajo Gun, we might feel distracted by the idea of a good meal. And if we are in Tamo Gun, we might be focused on getting rest. So all these reactions are understandable, but none of the modes is intrinsically bad. In fact, tamas is necessary for sleep and rest. Sattva, for example, is associated with clarity and calmness. In a sattvic state, we think clearly, plan and strive for understanding. However, these modes are not only psychological forces, they also have associations with external things and environments. Some people's minds are habitually in tamas, seeking escapism through sleep, entertainment, or even substances. Others are more action oriented and motivated by rajas. So the modes influence both our inner mental states and our interaction with the outer world. Understanding these modes helps us understand how our consciousness is shaped and how we respond to various situations. So in Sattva, things are happening and the focus is on figuring out how and why things are happening. The mood in Sattva is about seeking understanding and clarity. In Rajas, the things are happening, but the mindset is about making them happen in one's own way. There's a desire to control the things. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to bend the world to my will. So Sattva seeks understanding, clarity, and knowledge, while Rajas seeks control and action. Tamas, on the other hand, seeks escapism. Things are happening, but who cares? I just want to escape into my own world and enjoy. The term escapist entertainment is often used when referring to movies. It provides an escape from the world for a time. So, generally, Sattva is associated with concentration, where we can focus our mind. Concentration, however, requires effort, while absorption is more effortless. The same two traits, concentration and absorption, can exist in Rajas as well, but with a different purpose, control and enjoyment. People who are materialistic can work very hard, often forgetting to eat or sleep, consumed by the need to control their surroundings. This can lead to absorption, but this is aimed at enjoyment. Of course, Rajas can also cause distraction. Tamas is often associated with passive attention. We generally think of attention as a good thing. Uh, the ropes can be used for the modes. The ropes convey the idea that we are being pulled. So we could say that the ropes act on the objects and the ropes also act on the minds. Some minds naturally seek out certain objects, while some objects pull certain minds. So sometimes sense objects come toward us without our will, and sometimes our senses go out seeking sense objects. So it works both ways. So the modes are like ropes. So modes we can think also in terms of colors. Krishna says that the material world is made of modes. So like colors have pixels and which are made of, so the digital medium is made of just three colors, but from these three main colors all images and videos emerge in the digital world. Similarly, all sense objects emerge from the three modes of material nature. So from the modes, all sense objects emerge. In this way, the modes are the building blocks of material existence, just as pixels are the building blocks of everything that appears on a screen. So another metaphor of the modes is like terming them as gears. In a vehicle, when the car is in a particular gear, it naturally moves in a certain direction. Similarly, our body, mind, machine can operate in different gears. Once it's in a particular gear, it will start functioning in that way. For example, in the middle of the day, we might be working and then suddenly someone calls us to have a philosophical discussion. If we are in a mood of active or rajagun, it's difficult to shift to a different mode. The modes can change naturally or intentionally. For example, mornings are broadly in sattvic mode, while daytime generally in rajasic mode and nighttime in tamasic mode. These are the natural shifts in the modes. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that the modes are in competition with each other, and one mode can dominate over others. The modes can pull us in different directions, and sometimes even within the same mode, there are different pulls. For example, both the desire to achieve and the desire to enjoy can come from rajas, but one is more long term and one is more immediate. The key is that the modes ultimately determine our actions, not just by what we do, but by the intention behind our actions. For example, Hiranyakashipu performed tapasya, which is normally considered sattvic, but his intention was to destroy Lord Vishnu, which was driven by a tamasic desire. So the intention behind an action matters more than the action itself in determining which mode influences us. So, broadly speaking, at the level of the mind, two things happen: emotions and desires. Emotions are generally associated with the jnana indriyas, the senses of perception. When we perceive something, we feel an emotion. For example, hey, that's beautiful, or that's terrible, or that's disgusting. Emotions are responses to things we perceive. There could be shock, anger, happiness, or various other emotions. On the other hand, desires are associated with the karmendriyas, the senses of action. When we have desires, we don't just perceive, we pursue. The very nature of desire is the act of wanting something. So, while emotions and desires are related, they're different in terms of their direction and modality. The modes primarily affect us by inducing emotions and desires. The modes shape our activities by influencing the emotions we feel and the desires we pursue. The modes are subtle forces that awaken certain emotions and desires within us. A person in Sattva might appreciate the skill of a Bharatanatyam dancer and focus on the story being depicted, such as remembering Krishna Lila. A person in Rajas might focus on the sensuality and physicality of the dancer rather than the story or spiritual aspect. A person in Tamas might disregard the dance's meaning and only focus on the sensual aspect without any awareness of the artistic or spiritual portrayal. So the same Bharatanatyam dancer can trigger different emotions and reactions in different individuals depending on their modes. So each mode is associated with a defining characteristic: clarity for sattva, activity for rajas, and lethargy for tamas. Krishna also provides a way to determine which mode is becoming more dominant in us. Krishna says, Jnanam yadav tad vidyat viruddham sattvam ityuta. When there is illumination through knowledge and the senses are open and aware, that is when the mode of sattva becomes prominent. And about Rajoguna, Rajoguna is also called Lobha or greed. The first thing is Lobha, the desire for more, more, and more. There is Prabhuti or Arambha. Prabhuti means we all have certain natural tendencies. But when there is greed, we keep starting new things. A person with Rajoguna is very good at starting things but not at finishing them. So we can see that these three modes and their characteristics are very much evident, especially Rajoguna and Tamoguna in our society. As Krishna says, if we live in Sattva Guna, we'll get elevated. If we are in Rajoguna, we'll stagnate. And if we are in Tamoguna, we'll get degraded. So after hearing this, Arjuna asks a question. He basically asks three questions. What are the characteristics of a person in the three modes? How do I know the characteristics of a person who has transcended the modes? And what is the behavior of such a person? Krishna begins by talking about the internal characteristic. So the first question is more internal. So Krishna says, Udasina bad asino, as if detached. Many desires and emotions will pop up. Like, hey, let us eat this, let us watch this, let us touch this. We can't be uninterested, but we must be disinterested. This means just because a desire arises, we don't automatically say yes to it. We must evaluate whether it is of value or not. We don't adopt our desires, we observe them. When we observe, then we analyze and regulate. The idea is to go beyond this duality by becoming an inner observer and understanding that these feelings come and go. We realize that neither happiness nor distress will stay forever. So Arjuna asks how to go beyond this, and Krishna provides a paradoxical answer. It seems contradictory, but it is not. Krishna says, without any deviation, one who serves me through bhakti yoga will attain the spiritual platform. Sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhugaya kalpate. Krishna says that by unbroken devotion or bhakti, we can transcend the modes. The key to understanding is that the devotion can be at different levels, intention, emotion, and action. So even if we are in Tamoguna, it may be harder to connect with Krishna, but it's still possible. So the essence of the spiritual journey is not about being perfect, but about maintaining the connection. Even if we are far from Krishna, he is never far from us. Our ultimate goal is to connect with him wholeheartedly. So, with this, we conclude the summary study of Bhagavad Gita chapter 14. Thank you all.